The United States has been fighting a war on drugs for 50 years.
Anything illegal here? Alright, people keep their hands up.
America's public enemy number one is drug abuse.
Millions of people, mainly poor and black, have been incarcerated. No country in the world jails their population at the rate the US does. And it's not just those behind bars who are affected.
We're locking up so many people in the United States, but we're actually adding the crime. We're messing up so many families.
Many have fallen foul of America's draconian drug laws. Hundreds of thousands are non-violent, serving up to life for small amounts of drugs.
I'm sickened by the war on drugs. I'm sickened about what it says about America.
But change is happening. The Obama administration has decided to let some out. This film meets one man freed by the president.
I had a life sentence, so it's like I was dead too.
The family of a woman who hopes Obama will do the same for her.
Leaving it behind, you walking out, the door closed and open, there's no too much.
And a casualty of America's war on drugs, who's finding life on the outside almost as tough as life on the inside.
I'm living in a car for over a year. I wanted to just go out and kill a bunch of cops because I'm having no assistance. You know, I don't know where to turn.
Freedom for Israel Torres after 17 years behind bars. And into the arms of his mum.
Getting another chance at life. It's like a different breath of air. It's free. And now it's like you just it's just a different type of air, man. And now that I'm here, it's more fresh. I just want to be with my family.
That's where I want it, with us.
Israel regrets his crime and how it hurt those closest to him. Sentenced to life for dealing in a small amount of crack cocaine, he's thankful President Obama's clemency has given him a second chance.
I had to get it made because he's the one who signed my clemency. I mean, just think about it. The president, how many people filed a clemency petition? I mean, and for mine to come across his desk, for him to look at it and take the time to go through each page, it's a blessing.
Israel is one of only a handful of people released by President Obama. It's part of an effort to reverse the effects of 50 years of mass incarceration.
You have young people who did not engage in violence, who get very long penalties, get placed in prison. Families are devastated that the path that we have taken in the United States in the so-called war on drugs has been so heavy in emphasizing incarceration that it has been counterproductive.
The war on drugs has led to a quadrupling of the prison population since the 1980s. It now stands at 2.2 million. Many of those locked up are disproportionately poor and black. One of the ways the Obama administration aims to get these numbers down is through a new clemency initiative, encouraging inmates like Israel to apply to have their sentences commuted.
One of my cellies, he asked me if I ever tried it. I told him no. And I told him I had an application. And he told me, we need to fill it out and see what happens.
So Israel gave it a go. To qualify, you must be a non-violent, low-level offender without significant ties to large-scale criminal organizations.
The guard comes out of his office and he yells my name. And I look up at him and I just got stuck. Nothing came out. It's like I seen a ghost. I picked up the paper and started reading it. Told me I was going to clemency. I was giving my life back. It was a beautiful day.
Sis, brother, I can only imagine how you're feeling. Because I know that when I feel so happy and so much excitement, I could hardly sleep last night. Can't wait to see you and hug you and talk to you. Love you times, your sis, Cynthia.
Everybody knew that I was going home. And it restored hope to a whole bunch of people. Everybody started pulling out their paperwork, trying to get all the information that they needed to fill out their clemency papers. There's a whole bunch more people that's in prison that I feel don't deserve to be doing as much time that they're doing.
The harsh drug laws that led to Israel and thousands like him being locked up were drafted by the lawyer Eric Sterling in the 1980s.
That, of course, is me. This is Mr. Hughes, who was the chairman when we wrote these mandatory minimums in 1986. It will be on my epitaph. Eric Sterling wrote the mandatory minimums of 1986. They really came right out of my word processor in room 207 of the Cannon building. The Senate made more harsh what I had helped develop for the crime subcommittee. They made the quantities lower, especially for crack cocaine, so they swept up more people.
Sterling called this probably the greatest tragedy of his professional life.
The mandatory minimums had triggers of 5 grams, tiny, tiny quantities of crack cocaine. And that ankle-high obstacle became the target for the Justice Department. So every year, thousands and thousands of people who had low little 50-gram cases. 50 grams is the weight of a candy bar. If you had a 50-gram case, that was a minimum of 10 years up to life imprisonment.
Here in Virginia, Congressman Bobby Scott has been campaigning for 30 years to get these drug laws changed.
We're locking up so many people in the United States by codifying slogans and sound bites that some studies have shown that we're actually adding to crime. We're messing up so many families. We get so many people with felony records that have problems getting jobs. You go into an African-American church and ask how many people have a relative or close friend in prison today, all the hands go up. When you know somebody that's serving 20 years and didn't really do anything that bad, I mean, 20 years, you're talking about what murderers and kidnappers get.
If I'm in the Bronx, I go to 2-3 different areas to see if I feel safer.
It's nighttime in New York, and Amir is looking for somewhere to sleep.
They're doing construction in a lot of places, so sometimes I don't feel comfortable there. I don't feel like I want to be stopped by the police. One of the places that I used to stay at night was on Harlem, but they cut all the trees down and now it's out in the open, so I don't feel comfortable staying there no more.
Amir was released from prison 4 years ago after serving 20 years for a drug offence. The tough time he's had since leaving jail shows the huge obstacles faced by many long-term prisoners on the outside. He's struggled to find a job and now lives in his car.
In my car, majority of my stuff is in the trunk. I have my blanket. I just put my quilt to a friend's house because it's not bleeding cold no more. But for times like this, from 40 degrees, from 50 down to about 25, I just have one jacket, one light blanket. But when it gets for the winter, I have a major a comforter. Then I'm lucky I have an economy card because it'll take me about $6, approximately $5 to $6 a night to keep the car running on for the heat at nighttime.
Even though he worked while in prison for 20 years, he's still left with nothing.
So at the end of my 20 years, they gave me a healthy check of 89 cents. I'm like, I worked for all these years inside, you give me a check for 89 cents? First of all, it takes $1 to cash a check. So it's really not worth the paper that it's written on.
Despite hundreds of job applications, the sheer length of time Amir spent behind bars puts off most employers. He rarely even gets an interview.
People know that you're homeless, they won't even give you a job.
It's left him having increasingly desperate thoughts.
Going to everybody asking for help and keep getting no, keep getting turned away, not having no assistance. I went to the politicians and asked them for assistance. I'm living in the car for over a year. And then New York City put another boot on my car. I just gave up. One time I went to like several friends, and I really have to call them friends because I went to each one of them to try to get a gun. I wanted to just go out and kill a bunch of cops because of having no assistance. You know, I don't know where to turn. You know, I go to places that's supposed to help people and they can't help. I see all the money they're using to incarcerate people, but they won't use a portion of that money to help people. What is somebody to do? I'm lucky I didn't get the gun, because if I did, I don't think I would be here today.
Under President Obama, there's been a recognition by the Department of Justice that the war on drugs has failed, and that a more common-sense approach to sentencing is needed.
We thought that the penalties were unnecessarily high under the guidelines as they were. In fact, we thought that in many ways that it was detrimental to public safety. Prison costs a lot of money. It's also costly in human terms and in community terms, and we try to minimize those costs as much as possible, consistent with improving public safety. And we thought that reducing the penalties for drug traffickers in the slight way that the Commission was considering, and recognizing that there were still significant enhancements for drug traffickers who use violence, who use guns, who involve children. We thought that the Commission's step was the right one and would be consistent and help us to improve public safety.
The change in sentencing guidelines means thousands of prisoners could be released this November.
It will apply to those offenders who would, if they would have been sentenced today under the new sentencing guidelines, would have had a reduced penalty. So, and the Commission has estimated that that is, again, roughly in the 30 to 40,000 people.
While these new guidelines have given hope to countless families across America, they don't apply to all drug offenders. Here in Berryville, Virginia, live one family torn apart by the war on drugs. Their only answer is the man in the White House.
We thank you to be with us, to lead us, to guide us, to help us in all that we say and do. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
As with so many other victims of America's tough drug laws, it's not just those behind bars who suffer.
With my mother being incarcerated, my biggest fear is that my brother is not going to care about life, and he may go out and rob a bank or do something, heinous or whatever that, he wasn't raised to, do, but just because of the fact that he has that hate inside him for our legal system.
Perry was in his 20s when his mother, Charcille, was stopped for a broken taillight in April 2006. The situation then quickly spiraled out of control after the officer says he smelt marijuana in her car. It was a chain of events that ended with Charcille facing a life sentence plus 30 years for conspiracy to distribute crack cocaine, a crime she denies. The family believes she should have been helped, not locked up.
For years, honestly, I used to tell her all the time, because my mother was on probation, I would say, call a probation officer, get her violated, because I knew my mother was using. I'd been around it all my life. They had kind of turned a blind eye towards it, so at times when she was high, I would say something to her, and it's like, she's not high. And I'm like, you can't tell her what she's talking or something. And I knew that with her being on probation, if her probation officer violated her, then she would go to jail.
This is not about guilt or innocence. On the one hand, she doesn't have to prove she's innocent. On the other hand, she doesn't have to say, I'm guilty and I'm sorry I did it. What this is all about is that the sentence is unfair. That's what this is about.
Jarsiel's family and friends are working tirelessly to get the attention of President Obama, the only man who can help.
We've tried to support Jarsiel through every stage of the process. We went to the trial. We've been to all the subsequent hearings and so on. We've continuously tried to get her legal help and to keep her case visible. Really, the only possibility left to help her is presidential commutation.
Leaving it behind, you walking out, the door closing, opening, it's a little too much. I look back in retrospect and I'm like, I wish I would have done more because it would have been so rough. So looking back at that situation now, I think if there were better programs that was offered to her back then, it would have been a lot easier on me and our family. So.
Instead of locking up non-violent drug offenders for life, here in the conservative heartland of Texas, they've been pioneering a rather different approach. This court in Dallas aims to prevent drug users from ending up in jail.
The drug court that I preside over is called DIVERT. It is a drug treatment court. It's for people who've never been arrested for a felony offense, who get arrested for a Schedule I drug, which is heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine, something like that. And it's a treatment court, and folks that come into the program, they get assessed to see if they're dependent and what their dependency is. They're sent to treatment initially. They're monitored closely. They're not technically on probation. The DA does not indict their case. And when they complete our program in 15 to 18 months, their case is dismissed, and they can get their record expunged, so it's off their record. Texas does have a tough-on-crime reputation. We send a lot of people to death row, relatively speaking, compared to the rest of the world. But when it comes to people with drug problems, we are probably pretty progressive compared to the rest of the United States. I have a regular job as a district judge where I try murder, rapes, and robbery cases, and I really do enjoy working in DIVERT because I get to see people get out of the system and get their records clean.
This path wasn't available to Israel Torres. He missed out on 17 years of his life, including his brother's death.
He passed away in his sleep. So I was like, man. And it hurts me to this day because he was my other half. He was 2 years older than me. And he left a little boy and a little girl, which now, they're my responsibility. I gotta step in and take his place.
Today, he's meeting his nephew for the first time.
What's up, boy? What you doing? Yeah. What's your name?
Tell him, Sam.
I asked if I could go to the funeral, but they denied me, saying that I would have to pay for all the expenses myself, and they gave me some outrageous number on the hour how much I would have to pay for the marshals to take me. So I wouldn't have been able to afford it if I wanted to. I had a life sentence, so it's like I was dead too. Like I had a disease that couldn't be cured. There was no cure for it. Finally one day there was a cure. And now I'm here. And I just want to catch up with my family and like I said, build a strong foundation with them and bring them back together and move on with them and show them the person that I've become.
After 4 years of struggle, Amir is beginning to turn his life around. He's finally working again, helping the homeless at night in the YMCA in Harlem.
Hide my homelessness because it's from 3 to 11, 3 p.m. to 11 a.m. In the daytime, I get to go to somebody's house, take a shower, whatever. But the ironic part is, I'm a case manager helping individuals that's homeless. When I go in there, I talk to a lot of individuals. They're homeless. Some of them might have a job and they need direction. So it's ironic how I can give all these guys direction. I can give them help. A lot of them be like, yo, hey, there's something different about you, man. What's going on? Like, why are you different than everybody else? I can tell them that, I know what it feels like being homeless. And I tell them for almost a year, 2 years, I've been homeless myself. And when I tell them that, then they give me more respect to listen to the words that I say.
For Charsil, her prison torment continues.
I have been incarcerated for 9 years. I have 3 children. I have missed out on so much of their lives, and I love and miss my kids so very much. There is no love like a mother's love. My only hope is that my friends and family work hard to get my clemency paper in, and President Obama looks favorably at me.
We're going to do our very best to make this case visible, because we think it is an exemplar of things a lot of people are talking about, the drug war.
On Capitol Hill, the new rules on sentencing have been broadly welcomed by both Democrats and Republicans. A realization that the US cannot simply jail its way out of a drug problem.
Why are we wasting so many lives? So many lives are thrown away. There are thousands, tens of thousands of people who the president could reduce their sentence. There are so many people who should be let out now. I'm sickened by the war on drugs and sickened about what it says about America.